Shocking truth, 7 bone-chilling facts about medieval childbirth. You 1T sleep again. In a time when life hung by a thread and pain was an everyday companion, one of the darkest corners of the past loomed large medieval childbirth. Imagine a dimly lit chamber filled with the rancid smell of sweat and blood, where screams echoed off stone walls. Women, trembling with anticipation and dread, faced a battle far graver than any knight's war. They entered this brutal arena with a glimmer of hope but often left it in silence, lost to the horrors of the deadliest gamble that was bringing life into the world. Did you know that as recently as the 14th century, childbirth killed nearly 1 in every 5 mothers? That sobering fact echoed in the hearts of women and families, marking each pregnancy with a weighty fear. Each labor must have felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, peering into an abyss of uncertainty. And if that wasn't chilling enough, consider the chilling notion that midwives often doubled as witches in the eyes of society. They were there to assist with birthing, yet wielded power that terrified. Can you imagine the horror of a birthing mother knowing her caretaker could just as easily be an accusation away from imprisonment or worse? The tension escalated further when we discover that many believed that childbirth was riddled with demons. It was widely thought that evil spirits tried to claim newborns during labor. Women were left feeling isolated, their bodies viewed as battlegrounds against malevolent forces. No comfort or solace from those who stood by, for they too were gripped with fear. To add to the mystery, folklore suggested that certain herbs could summon fairies to aid in childbirth, while others were said to harm the child. Women were stuck, balancing between hope and paranoia, each decision a potential gamble with life itself. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the gruesome truth unfolds, one can almost feel the hands of fate tightening their grip. A midwife arrives with a secret potion. A whispered chant, a hidden dagger, or perhaps something far more sinister. Can you feel the air thicken with tension? This moment holds a mystery of its own. Will the potion save the mother or seal her doom? With the shadows of the past haunting each unsteady breath, how will this story unfold? What other secrets lie buried beneath the weight of history? The midwife's figure loomed ominously in the doorway, her silhouette merging with the flickering candlelight. Mariette, the young mother straining against the grip of her labor, locked eyes with her. Fear twisted in her stomach as she saw the glint of something metallic in the midwife's hand, a small vial. What is that? Mariette's voice trembled, the words escaping her lips in a breathless whisper. It is your salvation, the midwife replied, her tone velvet but edged with a peculiar chill. Or perhaps a promise of release from your suffering. The chamber, already stifling with despair, seemed to grow thicker with unease. The walls, bare but for the dusty beams of wood, closed in on Mariette, squeezing her chest tight. Each contraction felt like a knife in her abdomen, twisting and turning with malicious intent. She thought of her children, playing unaware outside, oblivious to the darkness slowly creeping into her heart. Save the child. She gasped, grasping the fabric of her bed. I cannot let it be taken. The midwife stepped closer, the vial dangling like a pendulum, inviting and terrifying all at once. The child will come whether you wish it or not. But it is the fate of the mother that holds the true secret. With that cryptic statement, she uncorked the vial, releasing a pungent aroma that wafted through the air. It was a sickly sweet scent, almost floral, but undercut with something dark and unsettling. Mariette felt her resolve falter. The midwife had spoken openly of demonic forces at work, the threats that haunted the childbearing process. What if you bring forth not a child but a curse? She rasped, her fear weaving through the words. With a flicker of impatience, the midwife poured a few drops into a cup. Every birth has its own path. What is a curse to one may be a blessing to another. You must choose. Her voice trailed off, each word thick with unspoken knowledge. Outside, the thunder rolled ominously, a low growl that seemed to echo the turmoil within Mariette's heart. The darkness outside mirrored the chaos in her soul, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the edge of a precipice, teetering between life and death. Please, she managed, voice cracking. What if I refuse? A shadow crossed the midwife's face, wild and enigmatic. Refusal is not an option. The spirits hunger, and they will claim what they desire. The room fell silent, punctuated only by Mariette's labored breaths and the distant rumble of thunder. Doubt raged inside her, battling against the desperation for her child's safety. As another contraction seized her, Mariette's fingers curled around the edge of the wooden bed frame, digging in as she fought against time, against fate. The midwife stood unwavering, her expression unreadable. Was she an ally or a harbinger of doom? Time is slipping, the midwife urged, her voice now a siren-esque call. Make your choice. Mariette's heart raced. How could she choose? The potion glimmered in the candlelight, so tantalizing yet full of uncertainty. Would this remedy bring shelter from the storm or lead her into the waiting arms of darkness? Clenching her jaw, Mariette felt the decisions of generations before her press down on her, heavy and relentless. She was at the mercy of fate itself, and as desperation mounted, she breathed in the scent of the potion. What would it cost her to take this leap into the unknown? And as the clock ticked towards a fateful moment, what sinister fate awaited her on the other side? With the darkness gathering around her, and the midwife's voice echoing in her mind, the next breath could seal her doom or grant her salvation. Would this choice ripple through time? Would it haunt the legends to come? The answer lingered, poised to unravel the fabric of life itself. Mariette's breath quickened, a chaotic rhythm that matched the thunder's growing fury outside. Each contraction surged through her like a wave crashing against a fragile shore, and she felt the weight of history pressing down on her. Centuries of women facing this moment, each with stories etched into the walls of time. Yet here she was, trembling, caught at the brink of something unseen. Please, help me, she pleaded, desperation sharpening her voice. It felt almost sacrilegious to beg the midwife, this figure shrouded in shadow and mystery. The air between them was heavy with a blend of dread and anticipation. The choice is yours, dear, the midwife intoned, her voice a melodic whisper that danced dangerously close to Mariette's fraying sanity. What price are you willing to pay for your child? Mariette's mind reeled. Was saving her child worth tempting forces beyond her understanding? She had heard the stories, the whispers that haunted quiet corners, the tales of mothers who made choices only to find themselves ensnared in darkness. Yet, here she was, on the precipice of that same fate. The midwife stepped forward, the vial gleaming ominously in her outstretched hand. The bottle caught the light, reflecting Mariette's inner turmoil. You can embrace this gift or let it slip away. Time twisted cruelly as agonizing thoughts snaked into Mariette's mind. If she rejected the potion, would the spirits truly unlock their wrath? Images of her children filled her tired gaze, innocent laughter cut short, futures snuffed out like the flickering candle. She envisioned their faces, pale and troubled, knowing that their mother had faltered when it mattered most. Do I dare? The words bubbled up from a place deep within her, a question laced with fear and hope. Dare? The midwife chuckled softly, a haunting sound that ricocheted against the walls. What we do is seldom about daring. It is survival. This is how you will survive. Mariette felt the sting of tears. Was it from pain or fear? The very essence of motherhood battled within her, that fierce instinct carved from the marrow of her bones. What if this survival demands too much of me? Then embrace what you have left to give, the midwife replied, her smile enigmatic, at once comforting and terrifying. With every moment, the choice weighed heavier. Mariette glimpsed her children's futures, their laughs echoing through fields under the suffocating shroud of uncertainty. As another contraction gripped her, a new thought flickered through her mind. Could she wield the power of the potion and protect her children from whatever darkness lurked, or would using it only draw them closer to peril? Tell me, what does this potion bring? What awaits if I drink? The unknown, sweet Mariette. A path of intricate webs, a mirror reflecting both light and shadow. Desperation clawed at her throat. Her heart raced, each beat a countdown. The shadowy figure of the midwife loomed larger, more terrifying with every second, as if she was knitting the threads of fate before Mariette's very eyes. Would the potion grant her power, or would it unleash an unholy nightmare? In that harrowing silence, as thunder rumbled like an ominous drum, Mariette inhaled sharply. She reached out, fingers trembling, to grasp the potion. But just as she anticipated its cold touch, the room erupted with a crack of thunder that sent a crackling shock through her spine, echoing her fear. A sudden thought ripped through the air, sharp as glass. What if that was not the only choice laid before her? Mariette's pulse thrummed in her ears as she swung her gaze towards the dark corner of the room. Something shifted there, a movement too subtle to discern, as if shadows were whispering secrets meant only for her. What if she breathed, and for a moment, the midwife's facade wavered, revealing just a flicker of something ancient behind her eyes? Mariette's heart thundered anew. What lay in that corner, an ally or something worse? As the storm outside raged, the choices before her tightened around her throat, a noose of uncertainty. Could she trust herself to confront whatever secrets lingered, or had the darkness already begun its silent claim on her soul? In that final heartbeat before action, the choice ahead was clear, yet the path unfolded like a tangled braid of destiny, pulling ever tighter around her. Would she embrace the potion or uncover the truth hidden in the shadows? The midwife's eyes glimmered, waiting for her answer like a predator enjoying the chase. Mariette could feel the weight of the world pressing down. And for the first time, she wondered if true courage lay not just in her choices, but in the power of what she could unveil. Mariette's fingers hung frozen in the air, suspended above the potion, as her wide eyes locked onto the sinister movement in the corner. The shadows twisted and expanded, forming shapes that danced just beyond the edge of reality. A creeping dread clawed at her resolve, but curiosity beckoned as strongly as fear. "Who is there?" she called, her voice barely rising above the tempest outside. The midwife merely watched, a sly grin sharpening her features, as if feasting on Mariette's escalating anxiety. "Do you not wish to know the truth?" came a voice from the murky depths of the corner, like the soft rustle of dry leaves. It was smooth yet rough, accompanied by the sound of something slithering through the darkness. Mariette's breath caught, a chill crawling down her spine. "What truth?" she asked, the very word a fragile whisper. Before she could comprehend, a figure emerged half-formed, glowing faintly like an ember in the night. A woman, her face obscured but her silhouette strikingly familiar. The resemblance tugged at memories buried deep within Mariette's mind. "Mother?" It slipped from her lips like a prayer, both a question and a desperate thought. "Yes, dear daughter," the figure breathed, stepping closer, the shadows rippling like fabric caught in the wind. "I have come to offer guidance, though I cannot promise comfort." Mariette's heart raced as the memories flooded back, warm embraces, soothing words, promises of protection. But her mother had vanished years ago, swallowed by the very same darkness she now felt creeping toward her. "You shouldn't be here." The midwife stepped forward, her laughter echoing off the walls. "Ah, how sweet. The past revisits, yet it can't change the present. Choose wisely, Mariette." "Enough," Mariette shouted, brushing aside the midwife's words like a veil of mist. "What do you know of my fate?" Her mother's eyes shimmered with a knowing sadness. "So much has changed, dear one. I've witnessed the choices made in desperation. The darkness has many faces." "What darkness? What happened to you?" Mariette gripped her belly, the pain of another contraction racking her body, amplifying her growing panic. "The path you tread holds twists that could ensnare generations. The price you pay may not be for the child, but for your soul." Her voice dripped with sorrow, each word weaving a tapestry of dread around Mariette. "Then tell me." Mariette's voice rose to a near wail. "Tell me what I need to know." The mother's spirit drew closer, her form flickering. "To take the potion is to gamble with fate. It can shield your child, but it will demand your legacy, a part of you that can never return. Choose the shadows, she gestured toward the midwife, and you may harness strange powers, but they will come at a steep cost. I can't let my child die. Mariette gasped, agony threatening to engulf her entire being, both from labor and the clawing fear of the unknown. Sacrifice, my dear, her mother said softly. Only sacrifice leads to survival. Trust the shadows or embrace the light, but know this: either path will reshape you forever. With that, the ghostly figure began to fade, her voice dissolving into the storm's howling winds. Remember, what you choose will echo through time. Mariette's thoughts raced. She glanced back at the midwife, who stood patiently, the potion still glistening in her grasp. Could she pay the price and secure her child's future, or was there truth yet to unfold in the dark that could free her from all debts? My children, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Which choice can save them? The midwife leaned closer, her breath chilling Mariette's skin. The answer lies in your heart. It always has. As thunder boomed and the shadows wavered like moths at a flame, something clicked in Mariette's mind. Perhaps the secrets within the darkness weren't just for her but held the key for her children as well, but just then, a loud crash from outside shook the house, the door creaking ominously on its hinges. Mariette felt the pulse of impending danger rush into the room, as if the storm was ushering in something far worse than the choices she faced. What awaited her outside? Friends or foes? And what did the shadows truly harbor for her family's future? The midwife's eyes locked onto hers with an urgency that spurred her heart further into chaos. In that moment, the choice spiraled into true danger, drawing her closer to a revelation that could change everything. The door swung open with a rusty creak, revealing an inky silhouette framed by the tempest outside. Wind howled, sending icy rain slamming against the walls. Mariette squinted, straining to see past the darkness, her heart pounding like a wild drum. "Who is there?" The words escaped her lips as a shivering whisper. Suddenly, a figure rushed inside, drenched and panting. It was Henri, her brother. His clothes clung to his frame, matted with mud and rain, his face pale and streaked with urgency. "Mariette. You must," he stopped, blinking in disbelief as he took in the scene. The midwife and the ghostly remnants of her mother lingered like an echo. "Henri." She gasped, relief flooding her heart, though its warmth quickly faded as she glimpsed a shadow lurked behind him. It slithered like smoke, coiling tighter to his ankles as if it sought to consume him. "Get back!" she shouted, instinctively moving between Henri and the creeping darkness. The midwife's grin widened, revealing teeth that gleamed like knives in the dim light. "Ah, the brave protector arrives. But tell me, dear boy, what can you do against what you don't understand?" Henri's eyes darted from Mariette to the midwife. "What have you done to her?" "We have to leave." "No." Mariette clutched her belly, her voice sharp with desperation. "I can't leave without knowing. What's outside? What does it want?" The pain in her body surged again, a relentless wave crashing over her. "Only you can decide, Mariette." The midwife's words were laced with malice. "Choose the potion, and your fate is sealed. Trust in shadows, and your children may thrive, though at a cost." She gestured toward the flickering vial, inviting temptation. "Stop. You're twisting her mind." Henri stepped forward, protective but unsteady. "Mariette, we don't know what they want." Mariette torn between the desperation of motherhood and the peril of the unknown. "But what if the potion is the only way to save them?" "Think." Henri shouted. "What price will you pay? What cost comes with trust in darkness?" As the shadows inched closer, their tendrils brushing against Mariette's skin, she felt the weight of her decision pressing down like an anvil. "Your mother warned you," the midwife continued, her tone almost soothing. "Trust the shadows, and perhaps the truth of your legacy could be revealed. You hold more power than you know." "Enough." Mariette fought against the pain, finding clarity in the chaos. If we're to survive, there has to be another way. Suddenly, a crash resounded from outside, followed by a guttural growl that sent shivers racing down her spine. The air thickened with tension, clouds swirling, as if the storm itself was in a frenzy to counter the brewing chaos inside. "Get your hands off me!" Henri screamed, feeling the hold of the darkness tugging at his feet, threatening to pull him back into the storm. "Mariette." His voice pierced through her wild thoughts, a tether to rationality. "The shadows can't have both of us." The realization struck like lightning. What lingered outside was not just nature's wrath but a darker entity, an echo of the very fears that haunted her family. "Henri, we have to fight back together," she said, determination hardening her resolve as she grasped her belly for strength. But how? In an instant, the shadows seized the moment, blurring their forms as they consumed the space around them. The midwife's laughter echoed, merging with the malevolent growls emanating from beyond the door. "Choose, dear Mariette," she taunted. "What will you sacrifice to break free? Can you trust your brother, or is your fate tied to the choices you make today?" The thunder crashed again, drowning out her thoughts, but in that chaos, a flicker of hope ignited within her. "Let us break this cycle," she shouted, standing tall against the flood of darkness. Just then, the door burst open again, this time knocking Henri aside, exposing a pair of glowing eyes that pierced through the veil of night. Something stepped forward, a shadow of truth, something they had collectively summoned by ignoring the whispers of their past. "What have you done?" It spoke, each word cutting through the storm and slicing toward her very core. Mariette's chest tightened, panic seizing her heart. Was this the very darkness they feared, or could it unveil the answers they desperately sought? The air crackled with tension, and time hung suspended like a coiled serpent ready to strike. What would emerge from that shadow? Would it provide the truths she desperately craved, or would it drag her further into despair? The moment of reckoning had arrived, and with it, the heart of her choice loomed, dark and deadly, yet tantalizingly close. The figure took a step forward, revealing a face carved from shadows, the features flickering like a dying flame. Mariette's breath caught in her throat, each pulse of her heart echoing with dread. The eyes, glowing with a sickly green light, pooled a depth that seemed to pull her in, as if it knew her darkest secrets. "What are you?" She tried to shout, but the words came out as a choked whisper. "Your mother's blood runs thick in your veins," the creature hissed. Its voice wrapped around her, chilling and ancient, steeped in sorrow and darkness, "and so does your legacy." Henri surged forward, a primal scream escaping his lips. "Stay away from her. We face this together," he cried, pulling Mariette closer to him, as if his warm body could shield her from the encroaching fear. Together the word hung heavy in the air, laced with irony. Together they stood at the brink of a precipice, but the landscape of their fate shifted beneath their feet like quicksand. "Legacy?" Mariette echoed, "What do you mean?" Unease clawed at her stomach, mingling with the physical pain that surged from within. The midwife's eyes twinkled with malevolence, a twisted delight in the turmoil she had wrought. "The child you carry is a key," the shadow figure murmured, its silhouette flickering. "A key to either salvation or destruction. What will you choose?" The shadows twisted around Henri, creeping up his legs, threatening to pull him into their abyss. "Mariette. You must decide. Now." His eyes were wide, desperate. "No," she cried as deep-rooted instinct surged within her. "I will not be forced into a choice shaped by fear." The midwife's laughter echoed, drowning out the wind's wailing. "Fear? No, sweet child, this is clarity. Embrace it." A crack of thunder punctured the silence, and the entity's form shifted, shades of gray blending with the darkness, morphing into a figure from her past. Mariette gasped. It was her mother, nothing but a wisp of memory now, but the resemblance was unmistakable. "Mother?" she whispered, her heart racing as waves of sorrow washed over her. Mariette, the shadowy visage spoke, a blend of gravel and song. You must not shy away from the truth. It lives and breathes within the heart of every choice you make. Mariette shook her head, battling against the memories she had fought so hard to bury. This isn't real. You can't be my mother. Can't I? The apparition's eyes shimmered with truth that pierced deep. I was trapped by the decisions of those before me. Do not repeat the cycle. Henri struggled, trying to break free from the darkness snaring him. Mariette, please. Make your choice. Tension crackled in the air, heavy like an impending storm, and Mariette felt torn between powerful forces. One demanding darkness, the other yearning for light, yet both promising answers. Choose. The people around her chanted now, their faces morphing into shadows, twisting like whispers in a cornfield. Your choice will seal your fate. A surge of pain rolled through her abdomen, too powerful to ignore. It felt as if the world itself was asking for her surrender. Enough. She yelled, voice rising above the chaos. I want to be a puppet, bound to your strings. But just as she spoke, the shadows responded, swirling violently, and the air grew thick with electricity. Tension coiled dangerously tight, each heartbeat pulsing with impending dread. Outside, the storm crescendoed, as if the very heavens were aware of her turmoil. The door quaked under the force of a fierce wind, and with a heart-stopping jolt, the walls began to tremble. Your decision must come now today. The midwife sang, her voice a siren call now entwined with the crackle of lightning. In that moment, everything hung in balance. Mariette's fate, her children's future, and the haunting legacy of her family all reached a critical juncture. Would she dive into the abyss of darkness, or would she forge a new path, guided by the flickering light of her family's history? Suddenly, a voice came from deep within, a spark igniting in her soul. We will not be bound by fear. But just as she felt the ember of resolve stoke into a flame, the door burst open again, revealing a shadow larger than all the darkness around them, a true force of nature born from the storm itself, eyes like embers glowing with fury. Enough with the games. It roared, and the ground trembled beneath them. Mariette's heart raced. In that instant, she realized her choice was not just about her, it was about everything and everyone she loved. What awaited her on the other side of that choice? As the creature advanced, every instinct screamed for her to act. The weight of her decision bore down as the chilling truth loomed ever larger. What would she do when faced with the ultimate price of her legacy? The moment hung suspended, a taut string straining to snap. Mariette felt the heat of the massive shadow creature loom over her, suffocating the space with an oppressive presence. Its eyes, fiery, unyielding, seemed to judge her every breath, every thought. Choose. The echo thundered, louder this time, shaking the very foundation of the room. The flickering shapes closed in closer, inching along the walls, crawling like insects towards a feast. It felt as though the very air around her had thickened, wrapping around her throat like a vice. Henri's grounding presence next to her fought against it. She could see his face, the fear mingling with determination there. Mariette. Whatever you decide, we will face it together. But her chest tightened at the weight of those words. Together? But what if her choice tore them apart? What if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear? Shutting her eyes tight, she tried to block it all out, the shadows, the echoes, the pressure to choose. There had to be another path. I want to play your game, she declared, her voice rising to match the chaos. Game. The shadowy figure shifted, its features dripping into grotesque shapes. This is not a game, dear girl. This is your truth. Succumb to the darkness and lose your fear, or reject it and suffer the chaos of your own making. The anguish within her surged higher, an unstoppable wave. She stumbled back slightly, clutching her abdomen. The pain exploded, sharp as a jagged rock, and she gasped, tears springing to her eyes. Lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating the darkened room for a brief second. In that flash, she caught sight of the gnarled roots creeping from the corners, snaking towards her, twisting with eagerness, greedily yearning for what she carried within. Everything tightened her throat, her chest, her thoughts. The sacrifice they demanded felt inescapable, weaving a sinister charm around them all. Think, Mariette. She urged herself, battling through the claustrophobic fear that fogged her mind. The shadows beckoned softly, deceptively reassuring. Embrace your power, the midwife crooned, her tone an eerie lullaby. The weight of your legacy can become your strength. All it requires is your acceptance. But what would that acceptance cost? Mariette's vision flickered, she could see glimpses of her mother again, and for a split second, it was as though genuine warmth radiated from that spectral face. Do not repeat my mistakes, her mother warned, the wisdom tinged with urgency. Mariette. Henri shouted, tearing her from the haunted moment, please. Don't let them win. She opened her eyes, the storm raging inside her as much as outside. She felt the heat swelling, the growing flame of determination fighting against the icy grip of despair. No. I refuse to let fear dictate my legacy. With each breath she took, she pulled the energy from deep within herself, alighting a spark of rebellion. The shadows hesitated, rippling like static across her skin. This power is mine. I will choose my own path. Mariette's voice echoed, clear and unwavering. As she surrendered to that inner force, the shadows recoiled. But just as the darkness retracted, the larger entity lurched forward, its mouth parting to unleash a roar that threatened to shatter everything. You think you can defy what lies in your blood? Courage surged through her, igniting the space between them with tendrils of golden light. She pushed against the darkness with everything she had, holding tightly to the truth of who she was, the truth of her choices to come. In that pitched battle, the very foundations of her world quaked, and a piercing light burst forth from her core. The creature halted, the shadows writhing against the brilliance surrounding her. What is this? It rasped, fear meandering through its tone. Mariette forged ahead, desperate to ensure that every fragment of darkness met that light, daring to believe that it was enough. This is my legacy. I will not be defined by your shadows. But just as she felt herself breaking through the veil of darkness, she noticed a flicker of something at the edge of her consciousness, a pull that felt more instinctive than the fear surrounding her. Behind her, the storm raged fiercer than before. The shadows intensified, swirling rapidly, trying to reclaim that which was being torn from them. Every inch of Mariette was alive with fear and fury, yet a question lingered amid her resolve. Would this burst of light be enough to shield everything she loved from the impending darkness, or would her choice bring them all to an even more terrifying fate? With the storm's howl growing ever closer and the shadows threatening to encircle once more, a single thought screamed through her mind. What if the shadows weren't the only force at play? What if something even darker awaited? No, she couldn't let that thought take root. Her choice had to prevail if only she could hold that light long enough to see. The light pulsed around Mariette, fierce and unyielding, like a beacon in a storm. Every part of her resonated with the energy flowing from within, yet the shadow loom above her stirred, its howl rising like whiplash. Henri's hand gripped hers tightly, grounding her against the tidal wave of terror that threatened to crash over them. Mariette. Focus. He shouted, his voice barely cutting through the chaos. She gritted her teeth, willing herself not to waver. I'm trying. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out everything else. With every word of resolve, she felt the shadows inching nearer, coiling like snakes eager to strike. I can't let them win. She roared, summoning every ounce of strength. Above her, the shadow creature twisted, its form shifting and changing, embodying all her fears. Your darkness does not own me. With each shout, the golden light flared brighter. For a moment, she felt her mother's whispers of advice, warm and reassuring. Hold on, Mariette. You are stronger than this. Determination surged through her, bringing her closer to the truth she needed to embrace, but something dark uncoiled at the edges of her thoughts, chilling her resolve. What if this wasn't just about her choice? What if a deeper nightmare loomed, a horror woven into her very blood? Shudders racked her frame as doubt quaked the bright encasing of energy she had wrought. You think wrath will shield you? The growl of the shadow being rippled through the air like ice. We are embedded in your lineage, Mariette. You can't escape. No. I refuse to believe that. She shot back, challenging the very core of the darkness looming over her. Her breaths came rapidly, but with every inhale, she drew forth new strength. She was not defined by the chains of ancestry. A truth echoing in her mind drowned out the doubts. The shadows lunged forward, and for a sickening moment, Mariette felt the pull of their coldness. They swirled around her, suffocating and invasive, clawing at her light, seeking to extinguish it. Henri! She cried, feeling the shadows begin to strangle not just her, but the spark of him too. We have to break this together. His eyes widened, reflecting both fear and fierce loyalty. Whatever happens, I'll be here. Trust that power. Fight. With his voice anchoring her, she focused on that burning light. It pulsed through her heart, flooding her with warmth and unyielding spirit. Every flicker told her she was not alone. Henri's love was a beacon in its own right. With a howl of rage, the shadow creature lunged, aiming to swallow her whole. The darkness wrapped around her limbs, constricting like hungry vines. She felt Henri's hand falter, yet in that flicker of doubt, a fierce spark ignited in Mariette's chest. She wouldn't have his sacrifice hanging over her. Whatever they demand, I will not submit, she roared, forcing herself to stand tall amidst the surge of shadows. With a final surge of power, she pushed against the darkness. Her light burned hotter than it ever had before, cutting through the shadows like a hot knife through butter. They shrieked and retreated, losing their sinister grip as she surged outward, but then, she heard it, a low thrum resonating from the depths of the shadows, building into a sinister laughter that mirrored her mother's voice, twisted and cruel. And at that very moment, something shifted behind her. A dark figure, deeper than the shadows, began to emerge, its presence chilling her to the core. Did you really think it was just your legacy at play? The whisper echoed, sending shards of ice racing down her spine. Chains rattled, and the room shook again. A horrifying truth loomed. This was not just about her choice, this was a battle against something far greater and even more terrifying. Mariette felt a new surge of panic. Who was truly orchestrating this chaos? The shadows around her writhed, and as she turned to face the creeping darkness, a terrifying thought crept in. What if the bond forged in light and love was under siege, and that love came with unbearable cost? The air crackled, shadows converging, and everything began to fold in on itself. Uncertainty gripped her heart. The battle was far from over, and the minimal victory she had tasted felt like a mere appetizer. Was there truly darkness entwined in her family line, or was something darker pulling the strings? Flames flickered and shadows howled, but within her, a resolve hardened. She would find the answers or die trying. As she braced herself, her heart racing wildly, whispers of her lineage filled her mind. But did she want to know where it all began? Or would ignorance serve as her shield? Time raced against her as darkness swirled. Little did she know, someone was watching, waiting for her next move. How far was she willing to go for the truth? With darkness closing in like the final breath of night, the real question echoed in her mind: was she prepared to meet the very foundation of her being? The darkness thickened, pressing in around Mariette, wrapping her in a chilly embrace that felt both suffocating and unsettling. She turned her gaze to the figure emerging from the shadows, heart pounding like a war drum. It towered over her, a grotesque caricature of twisted elegance, sharp features stark against the swirling abyss. "What do you want?" she called out, defiance slipping into her voice despite the tremors racing through her body. "Want?" The figure's voice dripped with an unnatural sweetness, like honey tainted with venom. "Oh, my dear, it's not what I want. It's what you've always wanted, but could never grasp." Mariette felt her pulse quicken, weaving through the chaos of emotions swirling within her. "I don't want your lies," she shouted, trying to drown out the dizziness creeping into her thoughts. "You think you can manipulate me?" The figure chuckled, the sound echoing like broken glass. "Manipulation? No, my sweet Mariette. I'm merely here to unveil the truth. You're part of something grander, and the shadows are merely a reflection of what you refuse to confront." Henri's grip on her hand tightened, anchoring her to reality. "Fight it, Mariette. Whatever it's saying, don't listen." His voice was a lifeline, pulling her back from the edge as she felt the truth of his love radiate against the consuming darkness, but just as she pulled strength from him, the entity smiled, a chilling grin that spread like oil on water. "Ah, but isn't love just another chain? It binds you even tighter, warps your perception. Let go of that fragile bond, and see the truth laid out before you." "No." She shot back, the spark of fire in her heart igniting her resolve. "You twist my mind. I know who I am." "Do you?" The figure stepped closer, shadows swirling around its feet like tendrils. "You are the offspring of a lineage steeped in secrets, violence, and darkness. You are bound to it by blood, and blood runs thick." Her mind flashed back to her parents' hushed conversations, ink-stained letters tucked away in old trunks, the whispers of her family's past that had always felt just out of reach. A gnawing sensation filled her stomach. Was there a truth hiding just below the surface, tainting her very existence? "Face it," the shadow being urged, its voice dripping with dark allure. "In your family, darkness is destiny. It's far more than ancient tales, it has teeth. It hungers. You should embrace it, Mariette. You've already tasted of its power tonight." As it spoke, a frigid breeze swept through the room, sending chills racing down her spine. Mariette could feel the shadows amplifying, as if daring her to let go of her light. "This is your chance to reclaim your legacy. To wield the power that courses through your veins." Suddenly, her vision splintered, memories flooding her mind, her mother's lingering sadness, her father's haunted gaze. A surge of panic washed over her like ice. "No. I am not my ancestors' mistakes." Her voice rang through the darkness, a clarity emerging like a lighthouse in the fog. But the figure pressed on, advancing with deliberate slowness, whispering secrets that dripped like poison. They knew the truth and feared it. But what if fear was merely a tool? What if power lay in surrender? Henri's face reflected both concern and determination. "Whatever it is, we don't need to understand it, Mariette. We just need to fight." Torn between the horrific allure of the shadow's words and the fierce loyalty of the one beside her, she felt herself being pulled in two directions. The figure loomed closer, extended its hand, shadows shifting menacingly from its fingers. But in the deepest recesses of her soul, she clutched onto a glimmer of hope, the light that burned from within. A thought ignited: what if the truth could set her free instead of ensnaring her further? With a cry that resonated through the shadows like thunder, she let her light explode outward. "I don't need to know. I just need to be. I am enough." And then, everything erupted. The shadows howled as the light expanded, and within the pulse of energy, Mariette felt more alive than ever, but also more frightened. What she had unleashed rippled through the murky depths, revealing glimpses of monstrous truths lurking in the corners of her past, waiting for recognition. As the darkness writhed, a clear realization dawned within the chaos. What if understanding could shatter the chains, but also expose a truth far darker than she suspected? The shadows screamed, a mixture of rage and fear, but when Mariette looked ahead, she could sense their retreat. She had experienced a moment of hope, yet the dread of what lay buried remained unspoken, whispering behind the veil of her lineage. And as the clash of light and dark intensified, a dread realization crept over her. What if embracing her truth meant seeing the very foundation of her being crumble into dust? All at once, she was left standing alone, and the only question that echoed in her mind was haunting: would she be willing to face the darkness of her own blood, or would it consume her whole? The room felt like an electric storm, lights flickering, shadows creeping and clawing at Mariette's mind. The figure loomed before her, a potent embodiment of her fears and desires, a mirror reflecting everything she wanted to deny. Deep down, she felt the potent pull of something far greater than herself. Was it legacy? Destiny? Or merely a shadow seeking to manipulate her into submission? Fight it, Mariette. Henri's voice was a desperate tether, cutting through the chaos. He stood firm, anchored against the swirling tides of despair. The sincerity in his eyes sparked a fire in her heart, urging her to reclaim her identity from the suffocating grip of fear. "I won't give in," she shouted, pulling strength from within, summoning every ounce of her resolve. "I am not my past. I am my own choice." The shadowy figure twisted, its form contorting in rage. "You resist your heritage, but it will claim you. You're tethered to this darkness, and you can never escape it." "No." Mariette's resolve flared, emboldened by love. "I choose to face it. I will not shy away." With that declaration, the golden light inside her surged, breaking through the shadow's oppressive coils. The air crackled with energy as she unleashed that beacon of defiance. Light erupted from her core, expanding outward like a brilliant sunrise, illuminating the haunting faces of her ancestors trapped within the shadows. They gazed at her with a blend of sorrow and shock, as if they too hoped for redemption. "You cannot deny what flows in your veins." The shadow hissed, but Mariette felt the warmth of connection in every heartbeat. Henri's hand squeezed hers tighter, grounding her. "Together," he urged, determination ringing clear in his voice. "Yes." She responded, clarity flooding through her. "Together. I embrace my legacy, not as a burden, but as a strength." As she spoke, the darkness recoiled, trying to pull back against the encroaching light. It was like wrestling with an animal force, primal and unyielding. The truth of her heritage wasn't a chain, it was a bridge one she could walk with strength or be swallowed by its lurking shadows. "Enough of this facade," she cried, focusing on her family's history, the love, courage, and even the mistakes. The darkness around her twisted, revealing fragments of their stories, lives lived in quiet resilience, fighting against fate. It wasn't shame that resided within her lineage, it was survival, unyielding spirit, and unbreakable love. In that transformative moment, Mariette became the vessel of truth. She felt empowered, the blood of generations igniting a fire within her. Shadows began to dissolve, shrieking in fury as the brilliance of her light surged outward, consuming the darkness threatening to claim her. The figure howled, fading amidst the light, but before it slipped away, it hissed, "You think this victory is yours? You cannot escape your fate. Watch me." Mariette shouted, her voice echoing with newfound power. "I am not a puppet of my family's dark past, but a bridge to a brighter future." In that heartbeat of defiance, she knew she would face whatever shadows lingered ahead, armed with the knowledge that she held not only her fate but that of her children, and even generations to come. The tempest outside raged on, but it was a symphony of freedom now, not the foreboding chorus of despair it had been. The wind howled with a different tone, echoing a promise rather than a threat, and the shadows shrieked away, retreating into the corners of the room. Finally, exhausted but invigorated, Mariette collapsed into Henri's arms. "We did it," she whispered, relief flooding her heart. "We did," he replied, holding her tightly, warmth in their shared triumph. The darkness might have been banished for now, but they both knew the journey was far from over. Shadows could always return, but this time, they would face them together. Mariette pictured her children, their laughter shimmering in her mind. That sound now held a precious weight. She would nurture the love that survived beyond those fears, steering her family away from past mistakes while also honoring the unyielding spirit that ran through them. With the tendrils of darkness receding, she locked her gaze onto the horizon outside, the sun beginning to break through the clouds. A new day awaited them, a day filled with choices, love, and the light they had forged together. "We will protect them," she whispered, a vow for both her and Henri. "Yes," he affirmed, "no matter what comes next." At that moment, light began to rise within the hearts of her family, shimmering against the dawn. Whatever shadows lingered, they would face them, but they would never face them alone, and it is this spirit of unity and resilience that will continue to guide them. Now, seeking your support is vital. You need to subscribe immediately for more exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more passionate viewers like you. Don't just watch, be a part of this community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. We can't wait to hear what you think. And please, instantly share this story with at least 5 friends who are just as captivated by tales of courage and truth. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.